In the latest development in British politics, Labour's deputy leader Angela Rayner finds herself under growing pressure as questions continue to mount over her property dealings and the so-called stamp duty scandal. What began as a story about the sale of a council house has now spiraled into a wider test of political credibility, transparency, and accountability. At the center of the controversy is the claim that Rayner may not have paid the correct amount of stamp duty tax when she sold a property in Stockport several years ago. Stamp duty, as many viewers will know, is a tax applied to property purchases in the United Kingdom. For ordinary buyers and sellers, it's often a frustrating but unavoidable cost. But for a leading politician, especially one who has consistently positioned herself as a champion of working-class families, the question of whether she personally followed the rules has serious political implications. The issue first surfaced after reports suggested that Rayner's former property might not have been registered correctly for tax purposes. Critics quickly seized on the story, accusing her of hypocrisy and double standards. After all, this is the same Angela Rayner who has been outspoken about the Conservative government's failures in handling housing policy, taxation, and fairness in the property market. Now her opponents argue that if she is to hold others to account, she must also be fully transparent about her own financial dealings. Conservative MPs have been quick to push the line that this is not simply a technical dispute about property law. It is about trust, integrity, and whether senior Labour figures live by the same rules as everyone else. But it isn't just her political rivals raising questions. Within Labour itself, some voices are privately concerned that the story could damage the party's message of fairness and accountability. With a general election potentially around the corner, Labour's leadership knows that it cannot afford unnecessary scandals. If the story continues to dominate headlines, it risks overshadowing the party's policy agenda and undermining the credibility of one of its most prominent frontbenchers. Angela Rayner has denied any wrongdoing, insisting that she followed the law at all times. She has dismissed the controversy as a politically motivated smear campaign designed to distract voters from the Conservatives' own failures. Her allies argue that this is an attempt to bring down a working-class woman who rose through the ranks of politics without a traditional background or elite education. Still, the pressure is mounting. Calls for full transparency have grown louder, with some commentators warning that unless Rayner provides clear documentation and evidence about the sale of her property, the story will not go away. Newspapers and broadcasters continue to devote significant attention to the issue, fueling speculation about whether her position as deputy leader could come under threat. This isn't the first time Angela Rayner has been in the headlines for controversial reasons. Known for her fiery speeches, unapologetic style, and bold criticisms of the Conservative government, she has built a reputation as one of Labour's most visible figures. But this visibility also makes her a target. Political opponents recognize that weakening Rayner could destabilize Labour's broader strategy heading into the election. The situation also raises wider questions about public trust in politicians. In recent years, the UK has seen multiple scandals involving expenses, lobbying, and undeclared interests. For voters, the perception that politicians play by different rules is deeply damaging. That is why this issue resonates far beyond one property sale. It feeds into a broader narrative of transparency, honesty, and accountability, qualities that many voters feel are lacking in Westminster. For now, Labour's leader Keir Starmer has stood by Rayner, expressing confidence in her explanations. But political observers note that if the scandal deepens, Starmer may face a difficult decision: defend his deputy and risk being tainted by association, or distance himself in order to protect the party's image. Neither option is easy, and both carry risks. The coming weeks will be crucial. If Rayner can provide clear proof that she did everything by the book, she may weather the storm. But if doubts linger, or if new revelations emerge, the pressure could become overwhelming. Some MPs have already hinted that her long-term future in the leadership team may depend on how this issue is resolved. Ultimately, the Angela Rayner stamp duty scandal is more than just a story about property law. It is a test of character, transparency, and political survival. For her supporters, it is an unfair attack on a politician who has broken barriers and inspired many. For her critics, it is evidence that Labour cannot claim the moral high ground. While its own deputy leader faces unanswered questions, one thing is clear. This story is not going away anytime soon. The demand for transparency will only grow louder, and Angela Rayner's ability to respond openly and convincingly will determine whether she emerges stronger or whether her leadership ambitions face a serious setback.